Baggage by Sophie Bloom. With hindsight, I can't believe I agreed to cook Steve a romantic dinner, his first encounter with my cooking and my flat, on Halloween night. It really was begging for trouble. I suppose I didn't want to spoil it. We'd only been seeing each other a few weeks, and after a chain of disastrous relationships with sticky ends, I was starting to feel optimistic about Steve. Advantage one, Steve was a fireman, which, sizzling calendars aside, meant he worked funny hours too, and didn't mind meeting on midweek daytimes or at midnight after a late shift. Plus, the way I cooked, I'd probably need his firefighting skills in the kitchen. Advantage two, he was into me, but not too much. He didn't surreptitiously sniff my hair or hoard my nail clippings, and so far, I hadn't discovered a shrine in his toilet. Advantage three, he wasn't a poet, or a musician, or an actor, or an artist, or a singer-songwriter, or a novelist, or a blogger, or a DJ, or a playwright, or a rapper, or a filmmaker, or any other kind of creative, not even on weekends. Doctor-on-doctor romance was always a bad idea. So instead I dated artistic types and found them unreliable, self-centered, and impossible. They all had too much soul, that was the problem. Too much soul and not enough balls. That was definitely not Steve's problem. I tried to avoid Halloween for obvious reasons, but when we compared shift patterns, it was the only night, and critically the next morning, when we were both free. So for harmony's sake, I said I'd love to make dinner. I assumed we were meeting at his, but then he mentioned his landlord was decorating and could we meet at mine. He'd never seen my place, and what was I hiding? I nearly called it off, but then he promised to bring his uniform. Helmet, axe, everything, he winked. Well played, Steve. I'll just have to style it out, I said to the organic beef as I fanned the slices on the chopping board. As an orthopaedic surgeon, I should probably also be a killer chef. But my expertise stops the minute living flesh becomes dead meat. The few experiments I'd tried had mixed results. On the principle that nobody can really say what it's meant to look or taste like, I decided to make stew. But I was suddenly suffering from Cock's block. I reread the recipe and poured 2 glasses of red wine. One for me, one for the stew. Right, I said, moving on. Aubergines. I found them, sliced them, and stared at them, feeling my brain short out. Give me a compound fracture any day. Fry the slices in salted butter, said Charles over my shoulder. Adds flavour. I took a swig of wine and rolled my eyes. Charles, when I need your advice, I'll ask. He puffed cynically. Like when we were going out, and your heating broke down, and you were too proud to ask me to fix it and wore jumpers indoors all winter. I glared at the vegetables. Yup. That was probably a contributory factor in my death, you know, he added snidely, riffling the pages of the propped-up cookbook. This again. Oh, really? Not 30 years of artery choking fry-ups? Not your 20-a-day roll-up habit? Poor Charles. He'd been my first and last older boyfriend. At 29, I'd found it oddly thrilling to date a 50-something, and a poet who'd been on my GCSE syllabus as well. Thrilling, that was, until he collapsed, clutching his chest just after one of our Viagra-fueled sex sessions. I performed CPR immediately, of course, but I couldn't save him. And I soon discovered that even after death, I couldn't get rid of him. "Darling," Charles soothed, "I'm only trying to help." I planted the tip of the paring knife in the board. "Don't call me darling. And make yourself scarce tonight, too." "Ooh, special guest." As ghosts went, Charles was more camp than creepy. "Hot date, is it the fireman?" "None of your business." "Young love, how adorable." "Don't worry, I won't interfere. You don't mind if I spectate, though, do you? You know how inspiring I find it." The old perv. This was why I tried never to take men back to mine. Well, one of the reasons. "Can I stop you?" He laughed. Half Sid James, half Ghost Train. "Why don't I handle the stew while you have another glass of wine, darling?" That evening, an hour into a so far very successful dinner, I was glad I'd let Charles cook. His kitchen skills had been one of his more seductive qualities when he was alive, and he had really pulled out the stops tonight, presumably hoping for a show later. Steve certainly appreciated the effort anyway. He'd brought flowers and more wine, and the flirting was proceeding nicely when... "So," he said, "where are your skeletons?" I glanced behind me, afraid Charles had decided to manifest at a very awkward moment, but there was nothing. Steve grinned. He had a great grin. Schoolboy cheeky and sexy all at the same time. Great abs too, though I couldn't see those yet. "You know, your skeletons in the closet, your dark secrets, your baggage. You must have a few exes, a few issues, everybody does." "Not me," I said brightly, sweating like a shoplifter in a sauna. "Come on," Steve wrinkled his nose and winked. "No baggage, no exes?" "Neither, I mean both." I downed my wine, grinning too widely. "Hey, no baggage, fly me!" Steve nodded understandingly. "Yeah, I thought so. Took me a while to get over my ex-girlfriend too. Even after she'd gone, you know. It was like she was still there, in spirit, you know. Hanging around, watching, judging me. Did I imagine the ethereal, supercilious snicker? The sudden drop in temperature? Exes, eh? I said, grabbing the wine bottle in both glasses. "Hey, it's a lovely night. Let's take these into the garden." Steve frowned out of the window. "Looks like it's raining." "Yes, right. Lovely and fresh." I nearly ran outside to the garden, where housebound Charles couldn't follow. Of course, in my haste, I'd completely forgotten about Sean. Steve and I were romantically sheltering from the rain under my overgrown oak tree, starting to get cosy, when I felt a cold, bony finger slide into my right ear. I jerked violently, then pulled my phone out, clamping it to the side of my head as I backed away around the tree trunk. Sorry, Steve, I've got to take this work. He nodded, understanding. God, he was so cool about everything. It was so hot. I couldn't let my undead exes screw this one up. Behind the oak, I found myself face to slightly decomposed face with my one-time Irish actor boyfriend hiding in the shadows of the bushes. "Sean!" I growled. "What do you want?" He flashed his once charming, now disintegrating grin. This time of night he was usually hunting foxes or rats in order to suck their grey matter out through their ear canals, but apparently he changed his plans. "Could I not have a little taste of your brains, Meg? I'm starving." His voice was still mellifluous and gentle as rustling leaves. He'd done a lot of Magna's voiceovers. "No," I said. In life, he tried to sleep with every female with a pulse. Only after death was he showing an interest in anyone's brain. Go on. Last thing I ate was next door's cat, and I think it had toxoplasmosis. I don't feel at all well. "Piss off," I hissed. "Everything okay?" Steve inquired from the other side of the tree. "Yeah, fine, work, you know." Sean glanced at Steve, narrowing his once blue eyes. "There's a healthy-looking fella. Bet he's got a cerebellum like a ripe avocado. I could just have a little bite." "Absolutely not!" "If 'twere done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly." He sighed into my ear. He knew Shakespeare made me gooey, though not quite as gooey as he'd become since last year, when he'd returned from a Brazilian beer commercial shoot and promptly dropped dead. I'd wept, mourned, attended the funeral, and then been very surprised to find his reanimated corpse gnawing on a squirrel at the bottom of my garden a week later. He explained he must have caught the zombieism of a goth makeup girl he'd shagged on set. "She bit me real hard," he complained. "I thought that meant she was enjoying it." I let him stay because he kept the rats down and the foxes away, but he was really pushing it now. "I'll go to the butcher's tomorrow and get you some offal," I promised him. "But you can't have Steve!" Oh, Steve. Lovely Steve. Perhaps having your brains hoovered out by a lecherous revenant would have been actually preferable to what ended up happening. But all the time, all I wanted was to finish the night with both of us uninjured and hopefully still in the mood. Sadly, it wasn't to be. An hour later, Steve and I were getting down to business in front of the living room fire. I still hadn't properly fixed the heating, and the rain outside was now a full-blown storm. And at last, I was starting to relax. Trying to ignore the improvised erotic verse Charles was whispering into my ear, I made some sort of lame fireman joke, and Steve's face lit up like he'd remembered something. "Wait there," he breathed, "and close your eyes for a surprise." "Oh, okay," I said, hoping he hadn't brought some kind of alarming sex toy. "Won't be a sec." His grey-blue eyes sparkled wickedly as he vanished through the doorway. "The unwaked dream of your parted thighs, the smacking kiss of knicker elastic, my breath catches on the hook of your brow." "Oh, shut up, Charles!" I snapped. "I was rather pleased with that one," he said, miffed. I was about to launch into a trenchant and heartfelt critique of Charles's poetry I'd been saving since GCSE English, when I heard the basement door slam. A series of wall-shaking thuds, interspersed with blood-freezing screams. Charles and I looked at and through each other, horrified. Jesus, I said. Hankenstein! Hank Enstein. My handsome, totally unsuitable singer-songwriter American fling had been flattened by the Red Route Master his Anglophile heart loved so much the day he landed in England. It was midnight on a Saturday, and the nearest hospital was an hour away. So, fresh off my A&E residency, I dragged him to my basement and patched him up as best I could. Which wasn't brilliantly, I'll admit, but at least he was alive. Sort of. He stayed in the basement and acted as my bodyguard. He wasn't a threat, you idiot! I sobbed, on my knees next to Steve's mutilated corpse. Hankenstein shrugged. We had an axe. Better safe than sorry. Steve's fireman's axe lay next to his uniformed body, dripping with fresh gore. This was the surprise he'd wanted to spring on me. This is what I'd been hoping to see all night. Bloody hell, I sighed. Right, Hank, let's get him downstairs. Luckily, there was lightning that night. Hank's wild axe swings had missed most of Steve's major organs. His brainstem was toast, but I managed to hook up his iPhone as a replacement. He wasn't too pleased when he woke up and discovered battery issues meant he had to be within 6 feet of a wall socket at all times, but I explained it was the best I could do. Life as a crap cyborg took a bit of adjusting. But Hank's getting him through it. Judging by the frightening noises coming from the basement, I think they started writing songs together. As for me, I've got my eye on Michael, a lovely male nurse who's just joined the hospital. I know. I swore I'd never date a medic. But I'm starting to feel really optimistic about him.